I'm Sharon Suzuki. I'm the president of Maui Electric Company. And I'd like to introduce our team from Maui Electric who's here tonight. Matt McNeff, our manager of engineering. Kawia Y. Dixon, our director of communications. Mahina Martin, our director of government and community relations. Damian Perez, our supervisor of power supply here on Molokai. And Kathy Sears, our chief operator at our Pa'alau power plant. Again, thank you. We scheduled this meeting because we really wanted to continue the dialogue we've had with many of you, and of course, share with you our future energy plans for Molokai. And this is a set of plans that we filed with the Public Utilities Commission back in August, but we really wanted to get your input on this, and of course share with you other updates on programs and get your input on that as well. We've been, through our team here, working with the community, holding events to share with you what's going on as it relates to energy here. Kawi works specifically with the schools and has been participating annually in the Earth Day. And Matt and some of his folks on the renewable energy team have been working with the Molokai Clean Energy Initiative and Sustainable Molokai on the different aspects of energy as it relates to your island. So we wanted to continue to share with you our plans and get your input. So tonight, the agenda includes, of course, sharing an overview of our plan, an update on solar programs on Molokai, an update on a battery energy storage project that has been in the works for a few years, and a schedule of upcoming educational events on the island as it relates to energy. And of course, we'll open it up at the end to questions and answers. So, but before I turn the program over, I wanted to share that, so again, the plans were filed with the Public Utilities Commission. They gave us 120 days to prepare these plans, and it was done in conjunction with our parent company, Hawaiian Electric on Oahu, and our sister company, Hawaii Electric Light on Hawaii Island. And really it set forth kind of our vision of a future to 2020 and how we can achieve these 4 strategic objectives: finding ways to lower your bills, giving you different options in terms of how you purchase energy from us, or how involved you'd like to be in terms of your energy, and of course finding ways to increase the integration of more renewable energy while still maintaining reliability of service to all customers who want electricity. So with that, and I wanted to share that really these plans were filed, they have not yet been approved, and you know, things change as we move forward, so it's pretty dynamic, but it's not set in stone, and we really wanted to get your input and ideas if kind of what we have in there makes sense or not, and that was really the primary objective for tonight. So with that, I'll turn the program over to Matt.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Matt, and as Sharon said, I'm the manager of engineering at Maui Electric. I'm going to first go over our resource plans for Molokai. So as Sharon mentioned, last year we filed Maui Electric's plan on how we were going to meet the needs of the community as far as energy goes going out to 2030. And those plans, several hundred pages of a document for Molokai is kind of summed up in this one slide. And I want to reiterate what Sharon said. It's our proposal. It's not set in stone. These are just some things that we plan on, but things change, and even some of these things, we're continually trying to reevaluate and optimize as time progresses. So to start off, in 2016, we do have plans to roll out sort of a smart grid. Actually, all the Hawaiian electric companies on each of the major islands. So from Molokai, we would start deploying smart meters, obviously with the opt-out provision starting in 2016. The next year that something major is happening is in 2018, And for the purposes of the plan, we have 10 megawatts of battery energy storage being installed on the island, along with 8 megawatts of a centralized solar system. Now again, these, we had only so much time to put this plan together, and we're continually tweaking these as we get new information, but some of these things would be based on whatever can meet the need the best at the time. So going into the plan, we had certain assumptions on costs and whatnot, and that sort of came out with solar. But in the end, we're continually reevaluating what everyone wants and what's going to meet the needs the best. And then in that same year, we have a big plan to convert much of our what is currently diesel-fired over to liquefied natural gas, because of the cost savings, the potential cost savings that can pass on to all of us, all of the customers. So for Molokai in 2018, we plan to convert what can be converted as far as the units that we currently have over to LNG, and that's about 50%. So the units can only handle about half, conversion over to LNG. And then the other half will be converted from diesel over to biofuel, according to the plan, in 2023. So by the time 2023, hopefully we will have little to no diesel use on Molokai. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention one thing. And then, of course, throughout all years of the plan, we continue to have distributed solar being installed. In fact, overall for Maui Electric and for the Hawaii Electric companies, we plan to triple the amount of distributed PV that was installed at the end of 2013 by the end year of the plan, which is 2030. So if you can't see, that green bar over the top runs through all years, and it has a forecast of about 3.2 megawatts by 2030 of distributed PV. The good news is, so far, I think we have about, for Molokai, 1.6 installed already, and another roughly 1 megawatt pre-approved to be installed. So we're actually ahead of schedule as far as what our forecast for the plan was. So as Sharon mentioned, one of the goals of coming out with this plan was really to provide customers with more options. So we see in the future that customers will not only have the option of how much they want to interact with Maui Electric, but exactly what the nature of that interaction will be. Whether it be a customer that just wants to purchase electricity and that's it, or maybe participate in some of our future programs, electric vehicle rates, community solar. That's sort of like if you don't have rooftop to put PV on, or you just don't want to put it on your rooftop, we'd have programs where you could invest in a centralized solar and get some credit on your bill. And then other things like demand response. And demand response is basically people changing the way they use electricity based on either a signal or an incentive from Maui Electric. So, in the future we'll have all these different suites that people can pick and choose from on how they want to interact with us. So, we got to come up with a plan to go out to 2030. So, of course, it starts where we are today. And the Hawaii Electric companies are already leaders in the nation for percent of customers that have rooftop PV installed. As you can see from this figure, for the Hawaii Electric companies, it ranges anywhere from 9 to 12% of our customers have rooftop PV. And that compares to the national average of about, less than 1%. So leaders in the nation, that's where we're starting from, and that's a title we intend to hold on to going into the future. For Maui Electric, this is what the net energy metering program has looked like historically. So for Maui Electric, we have over 7,000 customers that participate in the net energy metering program with a combined capacity of over 47 megawatts. That's much larger than any unit Maui Electric owns. The combined total is much larger than any of our units. And we installed more solar in 2014 than we had in any previous year. And so that was Maui Electric. Here's Molokai. Looks pretty much the same. The graph is similar, sort of that exponential growth. Same like Maui Electric. On Molokai, we installed more solar and more customers got solar in 2014 than any previous year in history. So that's a success. And you know, although the numbers might look small, you know, the vertical axis is in kilowatts as opposed to megawatts. That might look small relative to the Maui Electric total, but as far as, you know, percent of installed capacity in relation to the electrical usage on the island, that's really, you know, pretty much leading the state. And I have a slide on that a little later that I'll come back to. So, you know, we put forth recently, just in January, our plan to continue to grow rooftop photovoltaic, but to do it in a more sustainable manner. You know, most of the photovoltaic systems have been installed historically under the net energy metering program. And if you're not familiar with that program compensates people at the retail rate for electricity that they export into the grid. And our recent proposal, you know, plans to phase out the net energy metering program and replace it with something called the Transitional Distributed Generation Program. And that program is designed to compensate customers at a rate that's more representative of what the value of that export into the grid is. So one of the reasons to phase out the net energy metering program is because it creates a cost shift between those that have solar and participate in the net energy metering program to those that don't have PV currently. And in 2013, for the Hawaiian Electric companies, that cost shift was approximately $38 million. And in 2014, it rose to $52 million. So we have a little video here we'd like to share tonight that tries to sort of explain how that cost shift occurs.
Upgrades to the electric grid benefit everyone, so it makes sense that everyone who uses the grid should help pay for maintaining and improving it. But this isn't what's really happening. Two friends, Sam and Ted, will help explain. They live in the same neighborhood, but Ted is in an apartment and Sam a single-family home. Ted pays $200 a month for electricity. A portion goes to maintain and improve the electric grid. Sam installed rooftop solar on his home. Through the net energy metering program, he receives credits for the energy his system generates. It covers his entire monthly bill except for a small amount. On cloudy days and at night when his solar doesn't produce electricity, Sam gets his electricity from the grid. But he doesn't pay his share to operate, maintain, and improve the grid based on what he uses. So who does pay? People like Ted, who don't have rooftop solar, pick up the costs for people like Sam. It makes sense that everyone who uses the grid should pay their share to maintain and improve it because everyone benefits from it. These improvements will allow even more renewable energy to be integrated into the grid and delivered safely and reliably to homes and businesses.
Hey Matt, before you move on to the next subject, how is that share calculated? I mean, when you guys say they're not paying their fair share, what is that fair share and how is that calculated?
Well, I don't know what exactly the amount is, but it represents like the fixed charges that you have, like a line that goes to your house, a transformer outside of your house. And historically, I think some of those fixed charges, the charges for things that don't vary based on your usage, like the line or the transformer, have been embedded in what people call the volumetric or the per kilowatt hour charge. And historically, that hasn't mattered too much, right? But only when people start to offset their total usage and, you know, sort of not pay that part of the fixed charge that is in the per kilowatt hour charge, then it's, you know, someone else starts to pick that up.
I think that's one of the big questions, right? Is, I mean, I think as a PV owner myself, I'd be willing to pay my fair share, but it's not real clear how that's, you know, you guys, in your proposal, you came up with that lesser tariff rate basically on the kilowatt hour. But I'm not, I'd like to understand better how that was calculated. Another thing, isn't the unfairness not because of net metering, but because of decoupling?
Yeah, let me finish and then maybe we'll come back to some
we'll
other
come back
questions.
to some answers, yeah.
Okay, so just to reiterate, I'm sort of summarizing our recent filing that occurred in January 20th, 2015. And at a high level, like I mentioned, the filing proposes to phase out the net energy metering program in exchange for what's being referred to as the transitional distributed generation program. That's to more fairly address some of the financial or cost shift issues that were sort of described in the video, as well as address some of the technical issues that the current net energy metering rules and regulations don't allow. Our filing also proposed to increase the circuit screening threshold for voltage issues. This is the circuit screening issue that often comes up, from our current limit of 120% up to 250%. I'll explain a little bit more about that in the future, or in the future slides. And then it proposes to treat upgrades to the grid that enable more DG as system improvements that would be recovered from all customers through rates. So we're also exploring various solutions to the different DG-related issues. Some of them, such as non-export or smart export pilots. Basically, we're looking into the possibility of people installing PV and having a small local battery, and the result of that output sort of making it more friendly to what the grid needs. And other things, like I mentioned, community solar, where people that maybe don't have a rooftop or can't afford to put in their own system can sort of invest in a centralized system. As with all of our filings, they always require the PUC approval, so nothing is final until that happens. Given the magnitude of the issues that we were dealing with in the filing, we did ask for an expedited or 60-day approval time from the PUC. Just recently, last Friday, the Hawaiian Electric companies and the PUC did sign an agreement acknowledging that the issues are complex and will take longer than 60 days to fully address. Okay, so this slide we just attempted to show the penetration of rooftop solar, primarily through the net energy metering program on Molokai as compared to the different Hawaiian islands. So definitely you can see Molokai. So I mentioned before, so Hawaii leads the nation as far as rooftop penetration, and Molokai leads the state. So 51% on Molokai, rooftop PV everywhere.
So we've got the state at cost.
And you can compare it to other islands: Maui 40, Hawaii 33, and then Oahu 25. Roughly half of what Molokai is currently. And again, this represents PV installed through the net energy metering program. However, given this penetration on the island, it does cause us to need to assess some of the system-related issues. So not the lower-level circuit-related issues that are often discussed, but regardless of how much is installed on each circuit, when you add it all up on a system level, related to the 51% number, you have to start to address some issues, and I'm going to try to explain the issue that was talked about in the filing in the next few slides. So this is what electrical usage looks like on Maui over the course of the day, and I only bring this up only just for reference. Maui has a electrical usage that's pretty typical of other Hawaiian islands. So as you can see, the minimum for people using power is usually around 3 in the morning, right? Most people are sleeping, there's not a lot of stuff going on. And the peak for electrical usage usually occurs around 8 p.m. People come home, they start cooking, they take a shower. That's when people have the largest use of electricity. So for Maui, we have integrated solar there too. You saw it was second to Molokai as far as percentage. And that does lower the daytime electrical usage. So, so right around, if you look around 10, 12, 2 o'clock, that electrical usage is lower as a result of the solar that's installed on Maui. However, because solar doesn't affect either the peak time at 8 p.m. or the minimum time at 3 a.m. for Maui, it doesn't affect the extremes for the island. And then now I'll go to Molokai. So this is the load curve for Molokai for one of the day. Just basically, you know, the electrical usage over one day from Molokai. The x-axis is hours, and the y-axis is again in kilowatts or electrical usage. So the day I chose for this example is January 5th, 2014. You can see that you know, the lowest usage is during the middle of the day, and that's a result of the high installed capacity of PV on the island. So, you know, so again, atypical of a typical Hawaii electric or Hawaii island usage, the minimum occurs during the day. And so I took this, this usage for the day, and I subtracted out all of the solar that has been installed or approved to be installed since this date, January 5th, 2014. And then I graphed it on the red dashed line. And now I'll explain what the different colors mean. So the green at the bottom represents the lowest that our units or our generators can operate at. And that's only two generators operating at the time. So that's the lowest they can go without exceeding various air permits or operational constraints we have for those units. The blue area above it represents some amount of capacity that we carry above the minimum, and that's primarily because we need to be able to go down or lower electrical output for reductions in demand. You know, there's some large pumps on the island. If they shut off, we need to be able to lower the output of the units in order to maintain the frequency at 60 hertz. So electricity always we need to generate the amount that people are using at all times. It always has to be in balance. So going back to the red dash line, again, so I removed or I subtracted out all of the solar that has been installed or been approved to be installed since January 5th. And I didn't subtract 100% of that, I subtracted only 75% of that, you know, because a variety of things may make it not equal the full capacities. Different orientations of panels, you know, dirty panels, whatnot. So I derated it by a quarter. And you can see that the red dashed line, not only does it go below the level that we need to keep to be able to keep frequency at 60 hertz or to make sure that the electricity we produce equals the demand, but also it kind of dips below the minimum operating level of the units. So what does that mean? It means a couple things, and it depends on what's happening at the time. One thing, we could turn off one of the units and make a little more room. But that would mean that we would be running the island with just one unit on, and you know, should anything happen, that pretty much means everyone's going to be out of power if something happens to that unit. So we try to run with at least 2 units. Another thing, you know, if we don't turn off a unit and for some reason a lot of PV comes on and dips below the green line, and we'll probably get environmental air permit violations, and you know, it'll drive the frequency up. And what will happen if we drive the frequency up? Basically, solar has certain settings that if the frequency gets too high, it turns off. And I'll be talking a little bit more about that later in the slides, but if that happens, then again, there's a ton of solar installed on Molokai, and we don't want that all turning off at the same time. So the main point is, you know, this slide illustrates that we can't take any more photovoltaic that doesn't have some kind of controls with it. We're not saying we can't take more photovoltaic, we just can't take it through the net energy metering program because some of the rules and restrictions that exist in that program don't allow us to control the systems.
So you need cleaner generators.
Yeah, so you know, that's what we're here to, you know, there's definitely are some solutions. So we have been partnering with the industry and research entities to find solutions. You know, one of the things that being, you know, #1 in the state that leads the nation is that a lot of inverter manufacturers and different people are interested in how to solve these issues that arise, because sooner or later they'll start to see it on the mainland. If they can get a heads up on, trying to address the issue, they'll just be better suited to meet the market needs in the future. So we have been working with Enphase. That's one of the major manufacturers for inverters for PV. And we have been trying to make those settings on the installed PV more friendly to the grid. We've also been, we've worked with, to resolve the technical issues in parallel to allow customers to install additional solar. So we are exploring other options such as installing a battery on the system, or seeing how EVs maybe can try to boost up the daytime electrical usage. So all those things take a little time to work out and develop. And so what we're offering now is the standard interconnection agreement. That's a different program that does allow people to still install PV today. And that agreement, unlike the net energy metering, does allow for controls. So that's what we have today. People can still install, and we're working on different solutions. One of them being the transitional distributed generation program I mentioned earlier, batteries, EVs, community solar, all these different things to try to address future, the issue in the future. And we're definitely welcome to any input you guys have on, what you guys think makes sense or what ideas you have. So one of the solutions we are currently implementing is the battery energy storage project in conjunction with the Hawaii Natural Energy Institute. So I've kind of come out and spoken about this before, but the project has been delayed. It was planned to be installed last year, and as a result of some restructuring on the battery manufacturer side, it got delayed, but it's currently scheduled to be installed later this year. So we are continuing to work on this solution. Again, this is a battery that will be sited at the Palau power plant. This isn't to address the excess energy issue that I showed on the graphs. It's to address the sometimes PV, if the frequency gets outside of the ranges of normal operation, it'll turn off. And when that happens, it can cause sort of a bad situation on the system to get worse. So it's a research project. We're installing the battery to see how best we can address that issue. And in conjunction, the more we can partner with the different inverter manufacturers to get them to change the settings, the more effective this battery that we have slated will be. So just wanted to give you an update on that. We're still continuing on this. It's planned to be installed this year, and it's one of the things we're doing to try to address sort of the multifaceted issues that we encounter with a very high level of distributed generation. Okay, so I just kind of thought I'd do some question and answer. So question, has the Molokai grid been shut down for distributed energy? No. So we can still accept distributed generation such as rooftop photovoltaic. We just can't do it under a program such as net energy metering that doesn't allow us controls. And again, it's to address this system issue that I kind of showed up on the slides there. Is this new proposal a plan to slow the solar industry while preserving Hawaiian Electric's profit margin? No. So
just on the SIA before you,
yeah.
Can you just explain how that works? Like exactly how that works? Because net metering works with that, retail exchange one-for-one, right? How does the SIA work?
So the standard interconnection agreement, it has different provisions than the net energy metering, but I guess you kind of have to think of the way you size solar systems differently. So historically, I think the way people think about it is, focused around the net energy metering program. They kind of think about how much energy do they use in a year, and they try to size a system that will produce that during the daylight hours, right? Basically, it always means that during the day you have a system that will export so that you're kind of banking it for the nighttime. But under SIA, you got to kind of rethink that there isn't a provision to get paid for the excess that you export to the grid. So it doesn't make sense for you to size it too big. You kind of either want to make it lower than what your daytime load is, or maybe you want to install it with some kind of a battery on the side to charge up when you have extra PV generation. Yeah, so that's kind of like a high-level explanation, but it does allow us to have controls, which is key for continuing PV installation on Molokai.
So does an SIA still export into the grid?
It can export to the grid, but there's no payment for that export. So you need to size your PV system differently.
So it doesn't make any difference then in terms of what you're taking in anyway, so all you're doing is paying less and selling it for more.
Let me just, I'll come back to that question. Let me just finish up the slide so I can get through. So let's see, did I answer no? Okay. Is this new proposal plan to slow the solar industry while preserving Hawaiian Electric's profit margin? No. So solar has no effect on the company's revenue. You know, it's more trying to address the technical issues on the island. You know, I tried to explain, as well as just addressing some of the fairness issues with the net energy metering program. You know, that program came about when PV wasn't able to compete financially on its own. And, you know, definitely times have changed and our programs need to change as well. So will Molokai residents that have submitted net energy metering applications be denied permission to install their systems? No. You know, we are recommending as the today option the standard interconnection agreement. We have several things. We have the transitional distributed generation out there for, you know, the PUC to look over and for everyone to, you know, collaborate on and make the program better. And we have other technical solutions such as community solar, non-export, smart export systems to try to continue to give people the option of installing rooftop solar.
So,
last slide.
okay.
Okay, so you know, I just wanted to thank everyone for coming out, and we have definitely made a, you know, a bigger effort in the recent years to be more present in the Molokai community. You know, we have participated in various school education programs and different business organizations. I think last year we reached approximately 450 of the keiki on Molokai, you know, teaching them about emergency response, you know, emergency preparedness, and you know, different activities like that. Here are some of the upcoming activities that we have planned. So on April 11, we plan to participate in the Molokai Renewable Energy Plan discussion. We have additional education planned for the schools on April 16th. April 17th, we plan to participate in the Earth Day, same like we did last year. We were here last year, plan to be here again. And then in April and May, you know, NextEra plans to come out here and meet and greet the community. So with that, I will turn it over to Mahina to sort of facilitate any questions that people may have.
Thanks, Matt. We're here because it's really important to get your input and feedback. So this process is to make sure that we make best use of your time, and whatever questions you have, you know, we'll try our best to answer them tonight. We have both Matt, head of our engineering department, we have Sean Suzuki, president of Maui Electric, we have our communications director. So we're here to try our best. If there's a question that we can't satisfy or we have to get back to you, please, we want your contact info. Okay, so just to make that clear. Now, I know Matt had a number of questions, and I don't want to dodge that part. So I think you had a standing questions that we told you to wait, and here's your moment.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and then after Matt, raise your hand and I will go to you. Okay, so we'll go to Matt, and Matt, I'm not going to give you the whole time. We'll like share. Okay, so Matt, and then the woman there.
Asked the question.
And there, the woman, yeah, I see her in the red. Oh, was your question answered?
No, I was just making a statement. It seems to me that the SIA is just as you're paying us less, and then selling it back for a lot more. So
okay.
you're paying nothing, and you're selling it at 56 cents a kilowatt hour. So
I think that's a worthwhile question. We should still answer that if we could respond, Matt. And then following your response, we'll go to Matt and then that woman here.
So thanks for the little break there. It allowed me to drink some water. So, okay, so yeah, that can come about if you kind of think about, you know, sizing a system, you know, a PV system as you would under the net energy metering program. But, you know, it really depends. The SIA, the economics of the standard interconnection agreement really depends on what your load profile looks like during the day. If you're somebody that has a pretty high load profile during the day, you can install PV, and provided you don't export more or don't typically export more than what your load is, the economics is going to be practically the same as under the net energy metering program. Granted, that might not be the case for everyone. You know, some people, if you're not home during the day, maybe you don't have that high of a usage. And that's where you might have to look at other solutions, such as installing a battery or having some way to store that energy, or changing your electrical usage to when PV is outputting the most. Because any kilowatt that you don't buy from Maui Electric, you know, you provide for yourself with your PV system at the time you're using the electricity, is just like net energy metering. You're getting compensated for the retail rate because you're not buying it from us. So the economics are a little different, and you have to think about it a little differently. You know, I'm not saying it is as lucrative as the net energy metering program is, but that's kind of the point. You know, that program isn't sustainable. You know, Safeway can't continue to buy oranges or sell oranges at the same price they buy them at. All that creates is, you know, more cost for the people that buy bananas, or something like that.
Nice try.
Okay. So.
Matt, your question?
Okay,
Try to repeat it.
I'm not going to take up too much time. What's that?
Louder.
Stand up.
Or here, you want to come? Matt, do a commercial? Or I'll try to repeat it, but since Matt is right here.
A lot of you probably read the letter I sent out last week. I'm here because I have a lot of concerns about the future of renewable energy on Molokai, about the changing of this net metering program. I have concerns for the people that are employed by solar and depend on it for a living on this island. But for the most part, I respect MECO, and I'm glad you guys are here, and you guys have made an effort to work with us, as these changes have evolved. But again, I am really concerned, and I have a bunch of reasons why I'm concerned. But some of the real specific questions I wanted to ask is related to the SIA. Kind of drawing a blank on some of the other questions because those slides went by so quickly.
Clarity on the change in the pricing, right?
Well, I mean, as far as, the SIA, I mean, you guys followed what the SIA is all about, right? I mean, so it's not a real, as a customer who was hoping to get net metering, when you're looking at SIA now, it looks like a really bad deal. And yes, if we can change our mindset about what solar means for us and how it can help us financially, then maybe we can accept it. But right now, it looks like a really bad deal. I'm sorry, that's just what it looks like. Because you're only offsetting what you're using during the day. And like the slide shows, peak usage is in the evening when everybody comes home. So that's when you use the bulk of your power and your solar system's off. And now you're buying power back from MECO at whatever, 46 cents. Or just remember the technical question I had was, with the SIA, what you're saying is that we cannot export, MECO cannot handle any more export into the grid without destabilizing the grid any further on Molokai. But you just said that under the SIA, you will still export power into the grid, which doesn't make sense because I thought the whole reason we're ending that meeting right now is because it can't accept power into the grid between 1 to 3 or whenever it's overloaded in terms of that base load, right? So, that's one of the confusion. I want some clarity on the SIA in terms of if we are exporting and we're not getting anything for it, and the whole problem with the grid is that we have too much export, that's not really driving in my mind.
So thanks, Matt, for the questions. I read the letter, and we share. We try to meet the community's needs, and we're not insensitive to all the things you brought up, and we do want to try to address those, and that's why we're out here, to listen to what everyone has to say. Let's see now. There's a multi-part question, but
mainly the SIA and the export part. So
okay. So right, the question was, I said, why is SIA okay? Because it could export as well. And the thing that net energy metering, the rules and regulations that currently exist don't allow is control of the PV system. That's key. Not only is net energy metering a rule for Maui Electric and the Hawaii Electric companies, it's also Hawaii state law. And as long as those laws don't allow for control of the PV system, we can't address the issue that arises on Molokai. And that's the difference between SIA. We're not saying it's bad to export to the grid, but if there is a case where it's, the sum total of the PV exceeds how low we can go on the generators and still be reliable, we need to have that control. So during those times, I chose a day. That's unlikely to be every day. There's cloudy days and stuff like that. But if it arises, we need to have the ability to control that PV and lower it so that we don't, cause outages or blackouts or violations of the air permits, that we continue to operate and maintain reliability for everyone. So that's mainly, the difference there.
So, I mean, as a solution, why not just modify the net metering law slightly so that you can have controls, you can control it when you need to for the sake of the grid, but you're still getting a kilowatt hour for kilowatt hour trade-off. I don't understand why we're, getting rid of that whole concept of what you put in, you can get back. If one of the biggest concerns is the control factor. I mean, can we change the law to build that into it?
Sure, no, and thanks for the question. Yeah, so the question is, why not just modify the net energy metering program to have controls? Well, it is more difficult to modify things that are in Hawaii state law than just in, administrative rules from the PUC. And also, I definitely have emphasized the control point for Molokai because that's one of the main issues. But our position is still that the net energy metering program, the way it is structured, given how much, PV prices have fallen, is really unsustainable. The video shows it's shifting. Anytime customers don't pay, I guess their fair share for maintaining the grid, other people are paying for it. And so right now I showed 10 to 12% of PV have PV. Well, people have PV. Well, that's 88% of people that don't. So although it's a high percentage, the majority of people still don't. And we're trying to just make it so. What the transitional distributed generation program, that's the program we proposed in our January filing. I think that's better than SIA, but SIA is what we have right now. The transitional distributed generation basically proposed to pay for the electricity that gets exported to the grid the same amount that it costs us to make it. Because Maui Electric's bill that comes to you has a lot of stuff in it, and not all of that is really related to how much it costs to make electricity. Simplistic terms, you can call how much it costs to make electricity the avoided cost, and it's, I don't want to say half, but it's, definitely not the full amount of the per kilowatt hour. There's all kinds of other surcharges in there that aren't related to how much it costs us to make electricity. And so what we proposed in the TDG, or the Transitional Distributed Generation Program, was to compensate people for the electricity they send to the grid the same amount that it costs us to make it. Yeah. So, we're trying to still be reasonable to people, but make a program that is sustainable in the long run, allows people to continue to install PV, and kind of stops this cost shift from, from those that have solar to those that don't.
So is decoupling going to end in the proposal?
Decoupling wasn't part of our filing. I know people often point to decoupling as a, as a way or as a reason why this cost shift occurs. But decoupling kind of is a mini rate case. And rate cases come around for utilities every so many years. And the same thing that happens in decoupling happens in a rate case, basically, just less frequently. So even before we had decoupling, we filed net energy metering filings with the PUC, and there was always a section in the back that calculated the cost of repairs. So, this cost isn't because of decoupling. Decoupling might make it happen annually as opposed to every 3 years or some other interval, but it would occur inevitably. It's just a fact that, we produce electricity and everyone shares the cost. If anyone doesn't pay for it, others have to pay more. It's kind of just the nature of the system. It's not really related to decoupling.
I'm going to go to the one who's waiting. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be for you. So I'm going to point out. You can say it. Yeah.
Or I can repeat it.
Yeah, you can.
If it's safer to
share your question and you can repeat it. Oh no. Okay. All right.
MECO, I just want to thank you for coming here and for asking our opinions on it. I'm Bev Ferguson. My husband and I run a friendly farm on the east side. We have net metering. We put it in about 3 years ago. We waited, saved up for it, put in, had to wait, and we love it. One of the reasons, actually, we considered going off the grid or being net metering. And frankly, there were 2 tipping points that convinced us to do net metering. One was that it economically penciled. And it made sense that, okay, we're putting in thousands of dollars in the system. We will, after a period of years, it will make sense to us. The second reason was we felt that we were doing something positive for the community and producing more than we used and putting that in so that the electric company, we thought this would be a benefit. And so now I want to apologize to you for being actually a burden on the system. I am Ted, and Ted is not paying his share, and I just feel maybe a little offended, frankly. And so I know that that is not your intent, you're trying to be very honest from your perspective, but from the perspective of a net metering customer, it is offensive because we feel we're doing something beneficial for the environment and that it has to make economic sense for us. There is slides up there about protecting the grid, but there is nothing about protecting your current net metering customers so that we don't go off the grid. And that will be our next conversation when we get home.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for raising that. And I do want to apologize. It certainly was not intended to be offensive, and we actually do appreciate you investing in photovoltaic systems because it does help not just the community here, it helps the state, and it does help and it benefits us in terms of meeting our renewable portfolio standards requirements, okay? So I think we all share, I think, the goal of having a clean energy future, not just on Molokai, but in Maui County and in Hawaii. And I think I wanted to just clarify that for existing net energy metering customers, we will continue to honor the agreements that we have with you, so the economic decision that you made before should still, pan out. You want to add something, Matt?
Yeah, so to reiterate what Sharon said, I'm sorry it wasn't our intent to blame anyone for this or anything. It was our program, right? So, I mean, everyone was encouraged to sign up for it, and it did benefit the state, and has allowed us to reduce fossil fuel use and all these different things. So we definitely appreciate it. That being said, we don't feel like it's a program that can continue on. So, no offense to anyone that has it, and as Sharon said, I'm sorry that may have come off as that, and definitely anyone that currently has net energy metering agreement with us will continue to honor that contract.
For how long? How long?
As long as the contract's good. There is no term associated with the net energy metering contract, so it does not expire. So as long as you are the person that owns the system and you live at your house where the system is, we'll honor the contract.
We're gonna go to the way you said. So the woman in the red, this gentleman, and then the other gentleman there. So woman in
My
the
biggest concern is whether the net metering contracts were going to be honored, if they were going to be grandfathered in so that we are not then going to be paying for it.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry I didn't mention that. I had, that was one of my talking points for one of the slides. I probably missed it. So definitely we will honor all our existing contracts.
Sure, your question?
I have a question. For example, Cabela pumps, they're filling up at night, running, they draw a lot of power, so the pumps on the island.
I'll try to repeat the question.
And, that's just an example of why can't they run during peak times? That's a lot of power running. That sort of thing will shed the load of the PV, sort of things like that. Also, like the battery backup, that sort of thing. That seems to be, I don't know if I agree with it. LNG, the fracking and what goes on with that doesn't seem very environmentally, the other ways to do that, I believe, so that sort of thing.
Okay, so the first question, if I understand it, there's various large pumps on Molokai that could be could adjust their usage to pump during when we have this solar energy available. And that's definitely one of the solutions going forward. I mentioned electric vehicles as one way to do the same thing. If you can create additional usage during that time, that is a way to use solar energy that may be available during the day. That being said, we would want to definitely have a program that is more sustainable, because right now the net energy metering program is the most expensive energy we purchase. Oh, and then the other question was with regards to LNG. Some of the environmental impacts associated with LNG, you weren't sure if that was really a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, why would we want to go there when we're trying to get away with that, our environment, and why would that be in the plan?
Sure, and for us, LNG represents sort of a bridge fuel. It allows us to lower customers' bills while we can still invest in infrastructure and modernize the grid. So it's not like LNG will be around forever. I have different slides that show even over the period of the plan, out to 2030, we convert to LNG, it lowers our our oil use, and then eventually even LNG is reduced through increased use of renewables.
Sir, in the blue? You had a question?
One thing that another speaker talked about earlier that's important is these systems that get put in, solar systems, rooftop systems cost anywhere from $12,000 to $20,000. So if indeed many systems like mine, I don't get paid for the excess energy that I send into the grid, but nonetheless it's deducted from the total amount of my bill at the end of the year. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. But it seems to me that if we're going to start charging more for solar customers, then you have to take into account that $15,000 to $20,000 investment they have already made. You can't just suddenly say, okay, you guys have to pay more for transmission and distribution, but in essence, we've already made a $15,000 to $20,000 investment in the system.
Sure. So the question is, we need to consider that people have made a considerable investment in these PV systems that they currently own, and we can't just change the way that people are compensated.
No, what I'm saying is that you want to factor in, if you're going to start charging people with solar systems more money for the distribution aspect of it, or the connection of the grid, you need to offset that by the analysis of what was their initial investment. Because somebody without a solar system that you're saying is paying too much for the connection, they never made that $15,000 to $20,000 investment in the first place. So, I mean, just in simple economics, you cannot analyze it, you leave it out one part of the equation, and that is the part which is their investment.
Sure. Okay, so the question is to factor in people's investment in their solar system when considering how much we would pay people for solar electricity.
How much you would charge
for that, like if we have to change it.
You're saying that you're going to charge people who have solar systems more money for the hookup, for the grid connection. Then at the same time, you have to factor against that all the additional investment they made in that system. Where your entire equation is on side.
So I appreciate that comment, but what were proposed in the filing wasn't to charge people more, it was just basically to pay people less. And in that filing, in our proposed transitional distributed generation program, we did factor in, given how much solar costs today, the payback periods would still be under 10 years for a typical system. So even what we had proposed, as I mentioned, as a transitional distributed generation program, paying people the avoided cost, the payback was still under 10 years for a photovoltaic system.
Okay, we're going to go to the woman in the back of brown, then Auntie here, and then in the green.
I think the issue is you guys being transparent about your inherent costs across the board to everybody, regardless of usage. What is your inherent cost of operating and actually having your facility here, which I think would help everyone understand what non-solar users would be paying as well as solar users. I think that's where the disconnection is happening. That we don't know what your inherent cost is to operate your facility to even begin to understand what you guys are trying to charge us, or not charge us.
Okay, the comment is that we need to be more transparent about what it costs Maui Electric to serve customers.
I do with that on a daily basis because I run a water system and I have to deal with that constantly. So I totally understand what you guys are trying to do, but to be more transparent on what your operational cost is as a baseline starting point where everyone can understand. No matter what happens, this is what it is. This is how much it costs, and everyone pays it, regardless of PV, renewable energy, whatever. Everyone pays for the inherent cost.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that comment.
We're going to woman here and then the woman in the green. Go ahead.
Coming from a small island with a lot of small businesses, I think it's time for MECO, and all the electric affiliates to take a lesson from small business owners. A small business owner is going to take money out of their own pocket when they have to pay their employees, upgrade their store, put in alarm systems. They're not going to charge an excess amount. When you look at the type of paychecks where some of this money, you wanted to know where the money was going, is going to these paychecks. An owner is going to take a cut. Why is it that the people without solar should be having to pay more, and now you want to decrease the amount that you purchase but you're going to receive on the grid regardless, because you have generators that need to be upgraded. If you're having less people come into your business, that owner is time to take a cut. Not the people that are coming in supporting the business that are still there, that have been there for a long time. So I think it's not only time to reevaluate our renewables, but I think your financial department needs to be reevaluated.
Thanks for the comment. Was there anyone that didn't hear? Or?
The woman in the green.
I don't know if I understood this correctly. You said that you proposed something for 60 days and it was, you didn't get that. That was to expedite this and that didn't happen. So I don't know what the time frame is. But you're coming in here asking for questions and support, and someone just gave an amazing idea about running I don't understand it exactly, but running something at a non-peak time. Why aren't you taking the information that you're hearing tonight and then coming up with a proposal instead of saying this is going to happen in 60 days? I don't know how long you were denied this first round of expediting it, so now what is the timeline that's going to happen with putting this proposal up to being forced on us?
Okay, I think in case everyone couldn't hear, I think you said we stated that the proposal to get expedited approval in 60 days was deferred or denied or whatever. It was deferred in the Friday agreement between Hawaiian Electric's CEO and the chair of the Public Utilities Commission. There is no date certain as to when the decision will be made by the commission and what the process is going to be in between. I mean, we are regulated by the commission because we do charge, as a regulated utility, we are allowed to, pass on our costs. But that's why we are always balancing our investments, the costs, that the impact to your bills, as well as integrating more renewable energy and providing reliable service. So we don't, but we will take these comments because actually, what this gentleman here brought up is not something that's brand new and something we didn't think about, because we do actually have commercial time of use rates that kind of, how do I say, send the, sounds too utility-ish, please pardon me, but send a right price signal, right? So if we have lower rates during the periods, in the past it used to be in the early morning hours that we would, customers who used electricity in the early morning hours paid lower rates because we had a lot of supply available and we didn't have to add more units to meet the peak. So, but of course, as you saw from Matt's presentation, the load curve has changed and it's now shifting, it has shifted here to the day. So we do need to definitely, look at that and see if we're sending that type of price signal, like a lower rate during the middle of the day when PV is available now, right? Renewable energy is available to customers like the Cabela Plantation, as well as we have had conversations with the County of Maui because we know that their pumps are kind of the major loads on this island. So we are looking at that, and that falls into that. It's a utility terminology, demand response, but basically it's allowing customers to respond to price signals or incentives and changing how you operate, or it already works that way so you can benefit. So those are options. Those are the types of options we're looking at.
I saw the woman in the back. Yeah. And then the woman in the blue. And then
kind of follow up on Juanita's comment of transparency. And in your long-range plans, you mentioned 50% coming from LNG. The externalized costs that are happening mainland, that aside, there's no infrastructure here, and so piggybacking on Juanita's comment, your projected cost for a transitional implementation of LNG would be appreciated, because I know there's countries around, or communities around the world that have already resolved the technical problem and have the infrastructure for alternative energy and solar voltaics.
Yeah.
Okay,
So it's like, to me, it's like you're throwing the money away to build the infrastructure for LNG, especially when you have people here willing to put in the infrastructure, and the technology has been solved.
Okay, thank you for that comment. Because was everyone able to hear that? Okay, so I'll just share with you that we are reevaluating, like Matt said, although this was a pretty high-level plan, and of course we gave you an overview today, is before we make the investment, so it was in the plan because it was our way of looking at a lower cost fuel that we could burn in our existing facilities, okay, because we hear from many customers, not just here, that our bills are always too high, which is, I think, one of the reasons why many of you have made the investment in photovoltaics and why the economics worked, right? So that's why we were looking at it. But because on Molokai, like Matt said, and my point was that we would evaluate each project before we made the investment, or the program economics before we roll it out, because we are concerned on the real impact. And as you heard, we know that things are changing. So as an example, Matt mentioned that we can only burn 50% LNG in the units here. And yes, we would have to make an investment to modify the units, but it's not like changing out the whole system, So from that perspective, the economics penciled out at a high level. However, we are at the point where we're looking at the details and the detailed economics to make sure that it does in fact still make economic sense, meaning it's in your best interest for us to make that investment. So these kind of comments like what you just shared will be taken into consideration also.
LNG is transitional. Solar voltaics is here to stay. Why go through it?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so we are reevaluating it, and thank you for your comment.
okay, thanks. It was the woman in blue. Yes.
Well, I think maybe some of us have played Monopoly too much, and we know what utilities are worth and what you have to pay for them. But when we came here, our electric bill was $500 a month. totally exorbitant for a family. We got, I reckon, it went down to $18 a month. There's something wrong with your system. And I cannot help but think, what if solar companies were to set up battery backup operations that, maybe a cooperative, so we could go completely off the grid. We're tired of paying for corporate profits, for corporate leadership. You have 6 people here tonight. Someone's paying for that. We don't want, at least I don't want, you coming over to the schools and giving your whatever. I want my money to go to reducing what goes out in my income. We're paying the highest gas costs here. We're paying the highest grocery costs here. We've been paying the highest power bills here. And frankly, we're getting tired of it.
Well, thank you. I'm sure everybody heard that. The concern about a bill going from 500 to 18 was significant enough, and where exactly does the cost get transferred into a corporation? I'm sorry to just kind of sum it up a little bit, but
What are you doing to reduce your costs in MECO?
I'll let
Yeah, I'll take that. So what are we doing to reduce our costs? Well, actually, as part of decoupling, which separates sales from our revenues, and again, we're regulated by the PUC, we have an obligation to open our books up to the Public Utilities Commission and the Consumer Advocate every 3 years, so they can see how we're spending our money and all that. And so we were we filed a rate case, is what we call it, and generally that's when we would request a rate increase. However, in December when we made that filing, we did not request a rate increase, so we're keeping our expenditures pretty flat. And so although we are trying to transform our business in terms of going from old technologies to new technologies, as well as trying to change our perspective in terms of really focusing on you, our customers, and what do you want, and which is why we're here. So, we feel it's valuable for us to be in touch with you, to meet with you face to face, to listen to what your wants and needs are, instead of trying to make decisions from Maui and thinking, this is what we think the Molokai people want. So that's why we're here. Okay, we want to hear your views. So we are keeping our expenditures flat, and as an example, we did need some help to make those filings, those plans last year. 120 days, we knew we couldn't do it the same way as before. Some of you may remember we had an integrated resource planning process, so that didn't really work well. So we did hire some consultants, but we were able to adjust our other spending to keep within what we were allowed. So we did not have to make a rate increase. So many of you have heard about the Hawaiian Electric Industries NextEra Energy merger. So they have made a commitment to not increase rates for, it's 4 years, right? So, we did the 1 year, which kind of is a 3-year thing. So they're going even 1 more year in terms of keeping rates flat. So just finding efficiencies. What we're trying to do is make alignments, restructuring a lot of our processes in different departments across our 3 companies, because we're a 3-company entity, and well, believe it or not, we had 3 different ways of doing some of the things, and really if we're the same company, the same entity, we should have some efficiencies by doing things the same way and automating and things like that. So those are some of the ways that we're looking at, trying to find efficiencies and keeping our costs down, and yet still trying to do new things.
Okay, a question from this woman, and then we'll go to you right after, followed by you. Because we're going to do your question.
I know I had a question before, but basically you're asking what we want as an island. And my answer to that is, I want for everybody to be able to have solar energy here that wants it, and not be told they have to wait. We want, our low rates, and we want solar. We don't want to have the environmental effects.
of diesel and natural gas. So going with that, your graph surprised me that showed the usage throughout the day. Because in a lot of other places, there's higher usage during the day, and it's the lower rate that you pay at night. And you're saying that we use so little during the day, and that's when we have solar, that's causing a problem. So my question to you is, have you reached out to the community and told us that this is a problem? There are things like the pumps that could be done at a different time of the day. We have an electric car and we charge it at night. We could charge it during the day. We don't know when the best time for the electric company is. It doesn't. I could run laundry during the day rather than later on if it would help you. And if you went to the outreach and said what would help balance it out, large scale, small scale, whatever, have you done that and asked for different usage?
Send a great question over to Matt. I think there's a question about the difference in the days, right? Why are the rates different? Morning, afternoon. As far as outreach into learning what the different communities are, last year when the Utilities Commission came to us and asked us for an improved power supply plan, we began our outreach and started to listen more. We're a 90-year-old company that's beginning to learn different ways through technology, website, online, as well as the good old come and meet you in your neighborhood. Your same suggestion of information on when can we do this together. You have something that can help contribute to conservation and lowering it. Exactly. It was the same thing we heard from the South Maui community, from their community association. So please know you're not alone in that. And this is part of the series of garnering that. I think it's really, really important to hear it from you and not assume that what we heard in one district is going to hold the same for here. So thank you for that. I'm going to let Matt answer that, and I'm going to go to the woman in the red.
I think my part of the question was people use less electricity during the day than they do it at night. Yeah, so that's something that we see across pretty much all of the Hawaii Islands, and it would be the case here if there wasn't so much solar. The only reason that daytime usage drops so low is because there's so much generation of PV. If not for that, the minimum usage would be during 3 a.m. in the morning, and the peak would be 8 at night. But we are out here to try to get your guys' inputs. And I did mention some of the things like demand response programs that we're trying to formulate for the future, and that's how we can kind of get this input, and we can make programs that can incentivize and signal customers when is a good time to wash your clothes or charge your electric vehicle, and give incentives for doing that, for changing your usage to times that it better suits the grid. So
just tell us. You don't have to have a whole program. Just, I think it goes a long ways just to let people know. And you're going out to all these different outreach. So that's all I'm saying is.
Thank you.
Tell us how we can help. Make it better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. We're going to the woman in red who's been patiently waiting, and then back to Matt, and then the woman in blue. Go ahead. Your question?
Okay, one of the things that I have not heard, but I've seen you roll out, is your quote-unquote transitional plan, where you are saying that you want to go with biodiesel fuel and you want to go with the natural gas. Now, I'm just looking, have we had input into that? Because that biodiesel has the same carbon footprint as any other carbon-based emission program, and we're in a situation now worldwide where we have to pay attention to that. Now, the other thing with this containerized natural gas, just because they aren't fracking my front yard, doesn't mean that I approve of what's going on in order to give you, quote-unquote, the low price. Nor am I in favor of the alterations to our harbor, which will have to take place for those large containers to come here to be done to our facility so that we can use it. That is not the kind of upgrade that I am in approval of or in agreement with. And I don't see why we can't have time of rate information come to us at an appropriate place. The other thing is, just as an overall comment, utilities companies used to be in the business of generating the electricity. When we were allowed to put on all of our individual solar programs, which was great because you weren't doing it, that was great, but now you have lost the generation capacity in your electric company. It seems to me that it would be far smarter to put in some kind of a large generation, solar generation facility that everyone here could buy into, because we want solar. We don't want to burn carbon. We don't want to alter our harbor.
Thank you. Heard pretty clear. I asked, I think, and they're very valuable. I mean that, sincerely. I want Matt to talk a little bit about community solar, because that's partly about what the woman had mentioned. How can it be where everyone can benefit from solar?
Yeah, so again, thank you for the input. That is what we are out here tonight for.
Yes.
And Cowie is taking notes on what people say so that we can incorporate this into our, our plans going forward. So definitely we are listening. I mentioned community solar in my presentation. That is a concept that we are trying to explore here, the Hawaiian Electric companies. And the concept, at a high level, is having a large photovoltaic facility, probably optimally located, right? So wherever the sun resource is the best, and having customers sort of invest into that facility, and then, in turn being able to lower their electrical bill because of that investment. So high level, we are definitely trying to explore ways to continue to allow people to have solar. We have heard you guys loud and clear, and believe me, that is one of the goals that we are trying to accomplish.
Matt, you had a question, and then we're going to, I forgot your name, so sorry. Okay, Matt, your question?
Yeah.
Okay, you're going to use your folks.
I really hope you guys can figure out the best solutions for our community, and solutions that also allow MECO to survive and continue to be a part of our community. I really hope that. And I know you guys got some really smart brains trying to figure out the solutions. And you guys put up some good solutions up there. You're hearing some good solutions from our community. And I hope you continue to engage our community, because we're really smart people here that understand our island and understand, just really creative and can find solutions that maybe you guys aren't thinking of. My grandfather helped build this power plant. When there was nothing here, he came to the island and he wired the first power plant. And he was a manager here for decades, and my father was also the manager for a while. And that's one of the reasons, like, I'm not your guys' enemy. I don't think anybody's your enemy. We do feel like we need more clarity on things like the economics behind what is being thrown at us, what is the real fair share, and also calculate in, if the generators are going down to like 2 generators running at idle for 3-4 hours a day because of solar, please calculate in what the savings are in fuel costs from MECO because of the PV that's tied in. Make sure that both sides are a part of the equation. And the other reason I hope you guys can figure it out is because I'll tell you this right now. If you guys haven't heard about it, there's this thing called the utility death spiral. And what that is basically when the utility makes it so expensive or cost prohibitive or difficult for people to tie in a net meter and continue to pay a little bit at least to the utility. What's going to happen as the price of off-grid equipment comes in, and it's already low. We're looking at it today. Because our guys are going to be out of work in 2 months. So we're looking at, okay, what are we going to do for off-grid? Well, what off-grid is going to do is everybody that's like, hey, I don't want to deal with SIA. I don't want to sell my power back for half of what I got to buy it for. They're going to say, let's go off-grid because it makes more sense economically for our house. And I'm not saying that's a great solution, because it's going to hurt you guys. And what my grandfather helped build is going to fail one day if that's the road we got to go down. So again, I hope you guys are successful at figuring this out soon. I got a bunch of applicants, and I'm sure neighborhood does too, who are getting denial letters right now, and they have a whole bunch of questions. The SIA does not look good. It's not an option I don't think anybody's going to go for. So, you know, I'm going to end my comment here by asking the question, on behalf of our customers and behalf of everybody else who might want to, or who are thinking about installing net metering systems, the question I have right now on behalf of them is, if they put in an application today, even though for technical reasons our grid is shut down for net metering, their application goes in, the PUC says net metering is still alive and well, you can't take it away yet, they haven't agreed upon that. Are those applications that are already in, that are getting denial letters, and are those applications that I would like to submit on behalf of those in our community who want to net meter, are they going to be honored? I mean, if for technical reasons we're shut down for 6 months or 12 months, and I hope you guys can give us a timeline at some point on how long it's going to be shut down. But when the grid opens back up to be able to accept more PV generation because of solutions like the pump or whatever you come up with, will the applications that go in between now and when and if net metering changes, will they be honored for the net metering program? What's that? I know January 20th, we were told after the fact, January 20th was a cutoff date for applications that were submitted to net metering, and basically any application that we or you guys or whoever submitted after January 20th are getting these denial letters. What I'm asking is, for those that got denial letters, and for those who we continue to put in applications for, because net metering is still technically open according to the PUC, are those applications, are they going to be honored when the grid opens back up, whether or not MECO is able to change net metering? And I'm just asking this on behalf of my customers because I got to get back to a whole bunch of people and let them know, hey, this is what it looks like.
Thanks, Matt. And the next Matt.
So thanks, we've heard the challenge and we are definitely trying to rise to it. That being the case, try to answer the specific question, well, I guess you had the mic so everyone heard. Let's see. So right now, the Commission has said the net energy metering program will continue, but not at the expense of system reliability. So that being the case, we have a reliability issue here on Molokai, and I wrote, there's an appendix in our filing, Appendix 5, that discusses the Molokai situation. I wrote it, and we brought copies here today. If anyone wants to read it and ask me questions after, I'll stay. But that being the case, there's a technical issue on Molokai that we need to address. If that situation is addressed, I believe we would open it up to whatever programs exist at the time. People can apply for net energy metering, and we will continue to offer them whatever programs are available. I can't guarantee that that's going to be net energy metering.
So Matt, thank you for sharing kind of what you folks are thinking of in terms of, you know, batteries and all that. So I'm not as close to the program, but I think maybe it might be worthy for us to sit down separately with you folks, the guys in the business, and kind of brainstorm, I mean, yeah, quickly, right? So more ideas.
2 months, they're out of work, these guys.
No. So you know, I mean, like soon, right? Soon as a follow-up to this meeting, so we can, you know, as Matt McNeff shared, you know, we're already exploring, oh yeah, I'm sorry, we're exploring solutions, right? But we want more. So maybe we can sit down and brainstorm some and see if we cannot find a way that might help address the specific Molokai situation.
Apparently, you have a big company and a lot of little companies. Apparently, there's competition. Apparently, there's a lot of ambiguous speaking going on because there's no transparency. We know that's going on. Apparently, the partnerships with our photovoltaic people is not being declared as a partnership. Apparently, there's monies, and there's a 1/4 cent, and there's a 1/10 cent that's being hidden. Apparently, there's more transparency being made as a family, because they're being screwed for helping out our environment. Apparently, there's a lot of ambiguous speaking going on. But if we can, again, what Matt was going to say, he said it right. He has a legacy here. We all have a legacy here. There's a lot of hammering going on, and there's a lot of hidden quarter cent, 1/10 of a cent, going on. So apparently, the partnerships with your agreements that you did make, most of them walked out. Please, because I'm excited about solar. All of a sudden, oh, are you going to get screwed another way, yeah? So, I'm a small guy, I never get them right away. If these people, these honest, hard-working people are being screwed at this level, then what about the little guys? But we want to work with MECO. I'm on a grade. Yeah, I just learned the word decoupling, and if that has to be in it. But God bless. Transparency. We have a lot of intelligent people at Matthew. I just had to get it out. That's all we need.
Thank you.
We wouldn't be here, honestly, if we weren't interested in hearing that. And what you heard is our proposed plans that went to the commission last year. We did at their request. We wanted to come and share with you what's proposed. Solar became a bigger issue, so we still came before you and are willing to hear that. We are dealing with a regulatory commission also, so some of that hesitancy you see is trying to find her way through a regulatory agency. I did want to get to her question. She's waiting, and then the gentleman in the back with the blue. So first, your question.
Okay. I just kind of wanted to add to what Matt was saying about, Matt has deep roots here on the island. Same with myself. My grandpa came in 1946. I'm a third generation here on the island. I want to raise my kids here. I want to be able to afford it. I work for a solar company, and also, along with what Matt said about the declines of the NEMs, I also wanted to add to that, and your resolution to, you were mentioning in your slideshow that you would not be declining NEMs. I guess I was not clear on that, or that that's what I got from it. When you said that you wouldn't be declining NEMs, that you would be providing a solution with your electrical vehicle program, your PV program, your demand response program, your community solar program, and your microgrid program. Okay, so you have this 15-year plan to 2030, but you're also selling your company to NextEra. So how do we know that they have the same goals that you do? And if they do not, what solution is there really for the people of Molokai?
I did bring up the merger, and of course, so in the announcement, and actually I have personally met their chair and CEO of NextEra Energy and their president of NextEra Energy Hawaii, and they do, so why Hawaiian Electric? Well, they liked what they saw in the plan, where we went from, I think across the three companies, about 67% renewable portfolio standards, so renewable energy by the year 2030. They like their mission is clean energy. So they're one of the nation's largest, or the largest clean energy company. They operate wind and solar farms in 26 different states and in Canada. So their interest is clean energy. They saw, like Matt McNeff said, that we are leaders in solar, and thank you to those of you who have helped us to get there. on a small island grid, it does have some challenges, but I think we're confident that we can overcome the challenges. It's just right now we're at a transition. I'll share with you my conversation with the NextEra chair was, I was a little concerned about the announcement about the wind project on Maui because we know that we don't need large-scale wind on Maui, but I think what he shared with me, so they're not, he said, and they'll be coming to Molokai and going to all the different islands and having meetings, so you can hear directly from them, but I'll share the conversation I had. So I said, does that mean, you're interested in the cable? Well, they're only interested in a cable, and they're certainly not interested in tying Lanai and Molokai to Oahu, but we had looked at the Maui to Oahu grid tie, so a tie by cable, and it didn't prove to be cost effective, so we're not pursuing that. So and we can achieve or exceed our renewable portfolio standards without a cable. So they're not set on having a cable, but I think what he shared with me and why I'm telling you this story is that he shared that they're very into technology. They like technology. They're looking at battery systems on the mainland, and I think the drive. So we've seen, right, PV was very expensive and unaffordable at one time, and the prices and the technology has improved. Prices have come down, technology has improved, right? So I think I'm very hopeful that a company like NextEra coming in and merging with our company brings lower cost capital, so we're a capital intensive business. They can borrow money and have access to capital at a lower cost, so that'll go right back to your bills. They are interested in technology, and to the extent that they're willing to invest in innovative technology like battery technologies, I think I'm hopeful that they can help bring the cost of batteries down, and we can integrate more, low-cost solar for this island, and maybe wind and solar for some of the other islands that can accept that kind of energy with batteries in lieu of, in place of fossil generation.
Okay, that's interesting, but what happened in Florida with NextEra?
Yeah. Well, so they don't have a high penetration of solar, but think about it. The economics are so good in Hawaii because the price of electricity is high. We don't have access to low cost, they have natural gas. They do have nuclear there. So Florida Power and Light has the lowest electric rates in Florida. So, in a way, and they don't have a renewable portfolio standard, but they do like us because we are at the forefront for distributed solar, and they are interested in clean energy.
I'm really interested in what's going to happen to the solar companies when they come through.
And certainly you can share your concerns or comments with them when they do come to Molokai.
The executives of NextEra will be visiting you in Molokai in April or May. They're ironing out their dates, but we're definitely coming. We're going to go to Kanoho first, and then Auntie, and then gentlemen. Your question?
I just wanted to say thank you guys for coming and sharing with us. The young lady before me had the $1 billion question, so she took part of my question, but I am very supportive of homogenizing the rates, of looking at lowering costs for the general public, especially people who maybe cannot afford to install solar. So I like the idea that Artie said about a possible solar generation facility with the utility or through a cooperative. I think that's a great idea. Just to add on to that, as far as homogenizing the rates, and maybe you can touch up on that again, how much of that depends on cable connecting the islands? I guess that would have been my full question. And how much would that rates be neutralized or possibly lowered?
Was your question about the cable answer what Sharon said?
What was two questions? How much of the idea to homogenize the rates would depend upon connecting an inter-island cable, would be one, but you just shared that you're not interested in Lanai and Molokai connecting, right? Can
Right,
you
from my
hear me?
understanding, they did not pencil out. for our
Okay,
purpose.
that's great. That's wonderful news for me.
And your second question?
And my second question is, if we do look at something like community-based solar PV system where people can buy shares or something like that, if we can sort of have a number to see how much it will cost.
For future path, right? To get more information on community solar and what exactly that would mean economically and the cost. Okay. We are going to be respectful of your time. So first we're going to go here, and then I know you had a question, and then we'll go back there. Yes, ma'am.
This was a question in regards to the merger and the fact that you're looking at a 4-year span before they can hike the rates. Do you know if there has been a limit on what type of rate hike they can implement, how fast of a percentage they can raise the hike?
Yeah.
After that 4-year span?
The question is, do we know what kind of rate hike could we expect after the 4-year period that was mentioned earlier? The 4-year is a commitment to not increase. It doesn't mean that there's a commitment to raise it on the 5th year. I want to be really clear about that part.
Well, NextEra is spending big money to merge, and I'm sorry, I'm not sure that I agree with the fact because they're a technical-based company, or that they're intrigued with the fact that we are doing so much renewables. I think, and this is not really directed at you guys, but it's my opinion, that NextEra wants to merge with MECO because it's a monopoly. And after that 4-year span, they can do what they want with the rates. So it's not directed at you, but if you had knowledge as to whether or not there was a written agreement as to how high and how fast, if it's so much of a percentage over X amount of years, or is it free range?
Could everyone hear the comment and question? Okay, so it relates to if NextEra would be increasing rates later. Of course, we don't know. And what I did want to share, though, is that the merger agreement still needs to be approved. The 2 biggest approvals are 75% of the shareholders need to approve the transaction, and that's expected sometime, I think, in May. And we jointly, Hawaiian Electric and NextEra Energy, did file an application with the PUC, so we need regulatory approval. And that was filed at the end of January. There are 28 parties that intervened in the proceeding. 27 were allowed by the PUC to be interveners, and 1 party was, I believe, conditionally approved by the commission. So with that many parties to the proceeding before the Public Utilities Commission, it might be pretty lengthy. So, but I just wanted to share with you, there's some other federal Energy Regulatory Commission approvals because they're a mainland company and other approvals like that. But I just wanted to share the 2 major ones are still hurdles we have to get through, yeah.
So there's nothing in regards to preventing them from raising the rate exponentially?
Oh, except that we would still remain a Hawaii corporation under the NextEra Energy holding company. So we would still be regulated by the Hawaii Public Utilities Commission. So all rate increase requests would have to be put forth and justified. Sort of that's when we, quote, open our books and share all the details, right? So that's the process would still apply.
Thank you, sir. Your question.
Well, yes, I'd like to thank you for coming and doing this. I can't help thinking that what you're doing is actually part of government's job, but I appreciate that someone's doing it. I think most of the comments here are heartfelt and useful. I'm sorry that they aren't directed at the problem, and I think the problem is not the utility, but the regulator. We talk about the PUC like it's floating in space somewhere. This is our government. These are people appointed by our governor. And there's no place in the state government where public energy policy is being set in a detailed way. And what happens in these cases is they're very technical, they're very detailed, it's very hard to intervene, they're like a legal proceeding. You and I can't participate in them easily, but the middle where we set policy, where we set broad guidelines, all these comments go into that. The middle where we all say what we want, there's no one acting there and directing the PUC. They are underfunded, they are 3 people, they don't even keep all the money, in fact they think they keep 25% of the money they themselves generate. So you're talking about an agreement 100 years ago with a utility, and the agreement was you have a right to make a profit, you have to submit to regulation. The company is large and now it's about to be eaten by a bigger fish. The regulator is tiny and overworked and not accessible to you and me. That's our problem. And these guys, I think, are doing a good job, but absolutely they have a right in law to make a profit. And so some of our comments should be going back to our government. Thank you.
Thank you. Gosh, I almost want to end on that helpful note, but we're going to go. And if you don't understand, the Public Utilities Commission he is absolutely correct. There are 3 individuals appointed by the governor that serve a term, and they serve as our regulatory body. So we can't make large-scale policy moves without them, and that is the access that the gentleman is speaking about. I want to go to the fellow there, and then I saw a hand someplace else. I'm over there. Okay, your question.
I was involved in, I work for Neighborhood Power. We built 3 feed-in tariff program solar farms. And I'm just curious, how is that going to affect the neighborhoods around its electric bill? Because we didn't see any lowering of the price per kilowatt.
Okay, so the question is about feed-in tariff. And so I'm going to turn it over to our resident answer-all person.
Sure, so, all those things affect rates. So, sort of how we figure out what it costs to, to provide electricity to everyone is how much generation do we make and how much does that cost, how much do we purchase, how much does that cost, and how much are the expenses. So all that goes into it. I believe it's in the rates. If you've created some feed-in tariff programs, it's in the rates. It might be relatively small, given everything else that's also in the rates.
My question is that affect the neighborhood around it? And that's according to the rates, or is that just the whole?
As far as rates, it would be Molokai. Yeah. So it's not like, what's that? Oh, okay, Maui. Then that would be for Maui, and a little bit for Maui Electric, since there is some exchange between the different islands.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Good question.
Oh. Well, thank you for coming.
Hello.
My name is Walter Mendez, and there's a shutdown January 20th for net metering on Molokai, right? Not Maui, just Molokai. Okay. So my question is to the people. Prior to January 20th, did you have a notice given you from you as a customer of MECO, notice that this was going to happen, a shutdown on the 20th? See, you're the customer of MECO. Did you have a notice that this was going to happen? No? Nobody?
They can't hear
you. I didn't get one either.
I can't hear you.
I didn't get a notice that there was going to be a shutdown on the January 20th. So I take it all of you didn't get one either. Because recently I just took my old panels off my garage roof because I had to fix my garage roof. And the panels that I took off was put up by Arco Solar. way back when his grandfather ran the electric company and Mr. Whippy. The house I've been in is Mr. Whippy's old house. And this was the first solar system in the state. Had 3 of them, 2 in Oahu and 1 on Molokai. So I figure I go sign up with Matt and I go upgrade. But in irony, mine was the denied. I was denied because they shut down on the 20th. But I didn't get a notice. I was able to sign up early. So that's the history of that solar system that I had. It was put up by ARCO and was first in the state. So now I'm stuck here because I'm denied. So now I have to, I don't know, I may go battery bank. We'll find out. Thank you.
You know, I'm really sorry that we did not give any advance notice, and I'll just say I'm interested really in finding other solutions. So hopefully it's more of a pause and quickly coming to different solutions. The one we had was standard interconnection agreement. But I'll just share the reason why we had to raise this is we do have an obligation under our franchise, so it's all technical, I'm sorry. But we do have an obligation as the regulated utility to provide power, reliable service to all customers who want it. And we do take that responsibility very seriously. So what Matt McNeff shared about the excess energy situation, I mean, if we never raised it before the commission and we had issues on the grid where we started to black out the island frequently, our responsibility, and we would have been criticized for saying, why didn't you tell us that that was an issue when we've had these proceedings going on and you filed your plans and all that. So as soon as we saw it, I mean, he showed you January 14th. I mean, it's, you know, sort of the accumulation of more and more systems being approved that, you know, he graphed only 75%. So anyway, so I apologize to all of you who are in this kind of holding pattern now or have to look at less economical programs or options, but I'm serious about trying to meet with the industry, especially the ones like you, Matt, and who work on Molokai, because now you've heard the issue. We wanted feedback, and we are certainly interested in getting, collaborating to find better solutions. So, you know, with that, I just wanted to comment.
Thank you. Yes, I haven't forgotten. Your question, sir.
Yeah, I hear lots of rumors about Next Era, and I was wondering, I know you're not Next Era or anything like that, but are they directly involved with the LNG industry, or are they just a customer of theirs?
The question is NextEra directly involved with LNG, or are they just a customer of LNG? Okay, liquefied natural gas.
I think I don't
have a good answer. Quite frankly, so why don't we NextEra should answer that question themselves. And like I said, they'll be here in several weeks. Rather than us speculating or kind of guessing, it's not something that's I don't know. Clear to us, and we just don't know. So, sorry, I don't want to venture that one. None of us do. So at this time, we are going to be here. We are not rushing out the door, but our respect for your time, we do want to close. I'm going to turn this over to Sharon and really mahalo all of you. You know, learning from you, and again, we will be here to answer more specific things, but Sharon?
So I just wanted to say thank you very much again for coming tonight to share your concerns, to give us feedback and your thoughts on the different options that we had put out in our plan, and certainly we'll reevaluate. And really, I think what I hear is that we should continue this dialogue because, you know, it's again, not a plan that's cast in stone. This is exactly what we wanted, and that's why we had scheduled the meeting, and we certainly look forward to collaborating with the industry here because I think they're most knowledgeable of the specific circumstances here. So thank you again, and drive safely home.